So like we're just talking about niche market girls, right? So everybody, like if you watch, say you guys watch the TV show, right? And there's like some girl, she's like the what do you call it? She's the all-American girl. Everybody fucking wants her, right? She looks exactly like
Prom queen.
She's the prom queen. Yeah, exactly. She's the fucking prom queen, and everybody wants her, and everybody in town knows she's the hot girl, right? And then if you go to if you go to any country, there's always that same girl. So you could be in Africa, or you could be in Indonesia, and there's always that same stereotype. Like in America, they think it's a white girl, but it's not. It's a type of girl that's the most popular in that culture. So in Sri Lanka or whatever, it's going to be totally different girl. And in Japan, for sure, there's a certain, I call it the all-American Japanese look, but it's not. It's just like, it's exact same thing. Like when you see the girl, you'll be kind of like, I get it. Even though she looks completely fucking different, right? But like, okay, so there's that girl. But she's the one that always is the, kind of like the most expensive, hardest to get.
She's celebrated by everyone else around her as being like,
talk really loud.
Kind of the ideal. She's celebrated kind of as being the ideal.
Right.
By people around her.
Right. She's seen as the ideal. And I'm not saying that you can't get the hottest girl at the moment. I mean, I think there's something to be said for plowing the very hottest girl that exists on the planet. Like, I think there's something really good about that. Like, mentally for you as a man, not to feel that you are, I mean, not that you do it all the time, but if you just do it even once, you know, like there's a group of people and you just fuck the hottest girl. I did this once in a Swedish town. I fucked the hottest girl. And it was like, blew my mind because she really was the hottest girl in the whole town, like by far. Yeah. And when I left that town, a bunch of guys fucking followed me. And when I left the town and they were like, basically like, fuck you. Like that's what basically they said. Like, you fucking de-virginized the hottest girl in town. Like, now she's always going to be in love with you, you asshole. And I was kind of like, well, you know, what are you going to do? But it was really good for me because I never felt myself that way. So anyway, that's one kind of niche. But what I want to talk about here, what I think is the interesting thing that guys do not talk about. Okay, so the hottest girl is also interesting too because it's a challenge to you as a man. It's a challenge to your self-esteem. Are you worth it? You know, can you do it? Is it even possible? Right? I think it is possible, and it doesn't matter how you look. But that fucking self-esteem, that attempt is very powerful. You know, and people notice too. Like other girls will notice that you're trying to get the hottest girl, right, and that you are there. You're in the game, and even the hottest guys, let's say, they will fucking notice too. Yeah, they'll be pissed off.
They'll try to push you out instantly.
They'll be pissed off because they'll be like, wait a second, right, you know. And there's a lot of dynamics that happen. But what is the most interesting thing to me is when you go for the girl. And I've always thought this is the smartest move. You go for the girl who is super hot but out of fashion. So it's kind of like getting a car. Like what is it? Like a Prius right now is not popular. Like the Tesla people, the green people, they want a Tesla. And then the gas guzzlers, they want a diesel, triple barrel, overhead, you know, whatever, fucking smokestack truck, right? And then the Prius used to be the green car, but now it's not, right? So you buy a Prius, you get a good deal. I think getting that girl, like, for example, you're in a town that's all white, and then there's like one Sri Lankan girl. She was like, maybe was a refugee or she was adopted, you know. And that girl, she's the one that I would target right away because there's a lot of fucking benefit in that.
I would say, just looking back on my high school days, and again, I just want to make sure it is clear it's not taking advantage of the girls. You're befriending them and seeing where it goes. Right?
No. Let me add on that. Fucking a girl and a girl fucking a man is not taking advantage. Women are also equal. They choose who they're going to be with at all times. In fact, in the female in the human species, the female is the sexual selector. That's one of the reasons why humans are so intelligent, is because some species, the females do not select. Like in some monkeys, the female will just have sex. She has a red ass, and when she's ovulating, she'll have sex with any guy that comes behind. Females, they are one of the strictest selectors, and that's why we've evolved so quickly, because they don't choose like a weak, dumb guy. they'll always choose a smart guy who has an advantage to them.
Well-
And that's if you look at evolutionary wise, that's why we beat the monkeys. That's why we beat the other animals. Is even though we don't like it as guys, it drives us crazy that they're so fucking. That's also the reason why we're so smart. The women's strict, insanely complex choosing system is what makes us, our species, what we are. Actually, one of the big factors.
I mean that is a generalization, of course, because we all also know the girl that would always go home with the last guy standing every night.
Well,
There's
it's not a generalization. It's that it doesn't. It's not true in every scenario at all times. But I think too is when I'm talking about too is having babies, and when it comes to having babies, women might sleep with any guy, like a certain type of woman might be more open to that. But then when it comes to having babies, then all of a sudden things get serious, right?
Right. So
But even then, Dave is right. Some girls are going to choose poorly, and then that's going to be the case.
Part of it.
Yeah.
So I would say, like, when you would just take a step back looking at the prom queen, you have a girl that's aware of having a lot of selection, right? She's aware that she has a lot of selection. So to kind of turn it on the head is to find a girl that isn't aware that she has a lot of selection and presenting yourself as an option, right? So I was going to say, looking back on my high school days, it's like you got foreign girls, like the girl that immigrated from, it doesn't, if there was a girl from Germany, right? But she didn't really speak English, right? So even though she's good looking, you're somewhere where no one can really communicate with her. If you're going to be the one that makes the effort to communicate with her, well, now she's like, oh, I got an option, right? And it's kind of like the first one that gets there, honestly, is going to be the one with the option, right? If she's going to have a hard time exerting her options because she can't communicate. But if you are the first guy to try to, put it forward, she'll be like, oh, I guess this is my American boyfriend or whatever.
Right. Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. She's going to say, this is the one, right? This is the guy. I'm going to go with this guy.
So it could be a super hot chick from, let's say, China or, somewhere that came here and she, doesn't speak anything. If you're kind of the first one with the foot in the door and you're like, don't be, how could I say it? Don't be, pushy or you're my girlfriend, right? Just be like, okay, I'm around you now, right? I'm in your orbit.
Well, I mean, basically, you don't have to even say that. Basic dynamics apply.
Right.
Just like everything. But the thing is that she is not talking to that many people. She's new in town.
Yeah.
I remember my first Japanese girlfriend was very ugly. Super ugly. She even had a mole on her face. She wasn't my first Japanese girlfriend. I had Japanese girlfriends outside Japan. But my first one in Japan, I was there for a month, and I hadn't had any girlfriend yet. I hadn't had any girl yet. And everybody said it was super easy. You could meet anybody. It was all this and that. The first month, I had not figured it out yet. And I was super frustrated, too. Because I was like, man, I can't figure this out. And then this girl that I met, long story, she had a mole on her face. She was super ugly. But she was willing to talk to me in Japanese. She was the first girl. I was studying Japanese, and she was willing to talk to me all in Japanese. And she was a good teacher. And I thought, fuck it, I'm going with her. And she was probably the ugliest girl I've ever fucked. I have to say, she was definitely ugly, no doubt about it.
The first one in Japan?
Yeah, the very first one.
Me too.
No way.
Me too.
No way.
First one I got in Japan was so ugly.
No way.
I was just couldn't leave the room. I was it's bad, but I was embarrassed. It was embarrassing.
Right. She was so different.
Right out of the fish tank.
Where did you meet her?
Put through an advertisement.
Okay.
I posted something in the Tokyo Classified saying, dark haired fucking stranger from New York wants to meet you.
Okay.
And she was psycho enough to respond, and I was like, oh man, this one is ugliest girl I've ever been with.
Wow. Yeah. And I mean, the thing is, people will say, oh, you're calling a girl ugly. Look, some people are pretty and some people are not. It's a fact. I mean, come on, get over it. We all know how pretty we are compared to other people. Everybody listening to this is full of shit. If they don't know 1 to 100 where they rank, we all know. It's part of the fucking deal.
You could just say, and I agree with what Paul just said, but if you want to be politically correct, say they had very asymmetrical features.
Yeah.
They had the most asymmetrical features of any...
Pear-shaped,
right.
Asymmetrical. Yeah, you can use these other words, but what that means is not attractive.
Right.
Right.
Same,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so then maneuvering with her was like asymmetrical warfare. Right?
Yeah.
Mine, I did the opposite tact. I like literally don't care. I will walk with the ugliest girl. Like I do not care. And I'll go with the hottest girl. I don't care. Like that. A lot of my girlfriends will tell me that, and especially I'll tell you something. That's the way I've always been. I've not cared, and I do like skinny though. That's the only thing. Like I cannot stand girls that are not skinny. Like it's got to be skinny, but it doesn't matter how hot. And like I will walk around, and guys will be like, "Whoa!" Like one day I'll come with this, the next day come with that. And they're like, "Whoa!" You know, like it's fucking big variety there. But
well, it's easier.
But no, what I was gonna say is what's interesting about that is very interesting is you know who notices the most is the hot girls, and the hot girls. You would think that they would be confused or something. They get really like fired up because they're like, they're like that fucking girl is spending the night with him tonight. Like I'm gonna fucking like. There's no way that girl's gonna beat me.
She's got to put her back in her pecking order.
There is no way that girl's gonna beat me.
She's like, this girl's fucking up the pecking order. I'm the top of the pecking order. You don't just fuck whoever you want without going through me first. I'm gonna fuck him, smash her self-esteem back to where it was, and the world will be right again.
And the thing is, the fact that I literally do not care, it's pure. Like I'm not doing it for any other reason. I just don't care. Like it doesn't. I don't care. I like as long as they're skinny, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah.
See, but like,
and they're nice and skinny. That's it.
Like what you were saying with your Japanese girlfriend, they probably had an instinct of what I was saying. Is like, be the first one to get your foot in that door because you know back then you're the blonde hair, blue eyes, muscular American guy. It's like a prize over there back then, especially right. And she's like, first one with the foot in the door. You know.
Well, I think that's where I got the fucking concept was. I remember. Yeah, you're right because I remember when I was younger, and I had low self-esteem, right? And then a really ugly girl would come up to me, and then start talking to me, and I'd find myself dating her, and I was like, this girl's like definitely like dating way above her thing or whatever.
Above her
yeah, and I'm like, why am I dating her? Like I'm like it was kind of a struggle for me. I was like, wait a second. And then I felt inside myself, I really don't care. And so I'm like, okay, it's fine. But I at the same time, I learned, like you learn from girls, like you learn a lot. Half the population's women, right? I learned a lot from them because I thought, wow, she's so confident, this girl. Like she's definitely not pretty, but she's so confident that she just comes up to, I know girls that are really not attractive and they only date attractive guys. And I learned a lot from them. I thought, wow, you actually can do that. Because once she had me alone, once we had sex, once we were eating together, once we were laughing together, like it was even more that I didn't care. Right. And I was like, well, I can do the same thing. Like I can go up to the hottest girl, and once we're together, she's going to be fine with it, just like me. Right. And it was kind of true. I was like, wow, it's like the same thing. I learned from them to not be worried about it because I knew the secret. The secret is that there was more important things to me than that.
Yeah.
You know,
there's a lot of advantages to going with the ugly girl, you know, too. Like, I mean, there's certain advantages like because they're ugly, they know their finer features are like underneath their, you know, like they're more quick to like get undressed. You know?
I don't.
Oh, true.
I would say
right.
True. And, you know, women,
like if you're super ugly but have like the beautiful, perfect power rack, they want to get that out.
Oh, for sure.
Like quickly.
Or if they have a tight box, they're going to be like, box out quickly, right? Because then you're like, oh, nice box, you know, right. Nice tits, nice whatever, you know, and then.
I would say I want to just also add that it's not just about them being ugly. Like, I dated a girl that was like maybe 6'3". She was quite tall, and I'm like 5'6", 5'7", right? And I knew when we were out, like, I kind of knew people would look because, you know, I'd have my arm around her. My arm would kind of be around like her hips because she was quite a bit taller than me, but she was pretty attractive. But I think it's because she's like out of the ordinary that I think a lot of guys would kind of shy away from her or just be like, it's not even shy away. It's like they're just going to go to the obvious thing. Right? Guys are going to try to go for the homecoming queen. This girl is, like, really tall. She's very attractive. Her feature, like, face very pretty. But, she's not the obvious pick, right?
Yeah.
And it goes back to the same thing. Like, they could be like, oh, that girl's from like whatever country that's not popular, or like that girl's skin is whatever. So, you know, I was in Deep East Texas for a while. So let's say there was like an Indian girl or something. She wouldn't be the obvious choice, even though she could be objectively pretty, you know, like a pretty girl. But the guys there are like, well, you know, socially people might say this thing about me, or I don't. Even if those thoughts don't cross, they're still gonna kind of go for the beauty queen. The guy on the football team is gonna go towards kind of what matches him. He's not gonna go out of his way to talk to the Indian girl, even though she could be drop dead gorgeous. Well, there's your opening, right? I think
it's all a fucking fake. It's all a mirage, because I don't care, and I bet you a lot of other guys don't care. The only reason why they care is they think they have to care. They're worried about what people think. You know, they don't want to be seen. Like Dave was saying, he didn't want to be seen with that girl at that time, at that age. Right. Now, he probably wouldn't. You know, he's in the bathroom, so I don't know. But you know, like you change over time, and you kind of see things differently over time. But I think a lot of guys don't really care. Like the homecoming queen or whatever girls on the commercials. I think it goes back. I mean, for me, it goes back to your dick. Your dick is the only thing that's honest on your whole body, and it's completely honest. Your dick is absolutely honest. Like, in the sense that what is you want to be with, you will feel it right there, and you will notice it. So stop looking at your eyes and looking at other people. I found myself very, very comfortable with girls that were not attractive, but they were skinny. I just felt very, like, we had very good sex. We had good situations. Things were good, you know, and it's two bodies together in the end. It's not all society and everything. Who cares? Like, you know, in the end, nobody cares. Nobody,
you know, that's such a,
you know,
it's actually,
even if they did care, who cares?
It's actually a huge part that it's your dick. And this is tricky for a lot of guys to, like, shut off their brain for a second and check in with your dick and say, how do you feel about this? Because you could get a pretty clear answer sometimes. You could see a girl and you could think, oh, this girl's hot. And you're mentally, I should be attracted to her. I should want to bone her. But, like, if you check in with your dick might just be like, no, like, completely, like, not turned off, but just not into it, you know?
Right.
But you're not, so many guys are just, and it's easy to do. You just lie to yourself. You see her and she checks off these boxes, so that must mean this, even though you're physically not reacting to it.
Right. So, absolutely. And, I was going to say something.
But I would say part of that is also making sure you keep healthy, right? Like, if you're fucking eating a lot of shitty food or getting bad sleep or just not exercising or, you know, in a depressive state, it could be any number of things where your body's not really checking in with your mind correctly, right? If you're not getting clear sense of what your body's saying.
Nah, that's thinking too much. Now, fuck that. You can be fat as fuck and your dick still will tell you. It might not work as well as usual, but that's all you got. There's no need for rocket science. Well, your dick will tell you, and I don't mean like you're going to get a hard on seeing her walk by. I mean that that's the other thing. Sometimes I have to kiss a girl, I have to be near her, and I have to kind of like smell her a little bit to feel, that way. But I think the thing is that it's a very you know enough to go to the next level to try, and I want to say this about the dick. It's a lot of women and guys too will think that if a guy is talking about his dick, he's being selfish. I want to make it very clear that it's nothing about being selfish, because women also want love. Women want affection. They want love. They want a real connection with a man. Yeah. The thing is that when I say the dick, I'm not saying like a lot of people, they read into things. They hear something, but they don't hear it. I'm talking about a very natural thing, almost like the wetness in her vagina. I'm talking about something that you can't control, something that is very honest about how you really feel. And so when you listen to that, you're actually doing a great favor to the girl you're with, because she also wants you to be honest. She doesn't want you to fake it and then later on not be interested in her. She wants you to be interested in her physically, right? And she wants to be interested in you. And whenever you fake it, like let's say, I think one of the biggest crimes is when I hear about like a gay guy or a lesbian woman who marries a guy who they know that they're gay, but they don't tell the person because they want to get married for society. And then that person is basically locked into a lifetime of freezing outer space cold and feeling really terrible about themselves, So I think that being dishonest about this stuff is not only the right thing to do, but it's actually, I consider it kind of a crime against humanity to do that to somebody, because you're never going to be interested in them. And you are fooling them on the deepest level. And if they're the type of person who's kind of like not believe in divorce, or doesn't want to leave because of the family or whatever, you're like destroying them from the inside out. So when I say that, I'm saying like true, honest, body to body affection, connection, pheromone, deep things. That's what I mean when I say dick. I don't mean like, because young guys can get a hard on pretty easy. So I'm not saying like you just, that's the ultimate. I'm saying for young guys, I'm saying look deeper. Because there's certain girls, let me just say, there's certain girls that you don't want to just be with. For me, I almost want to melt with them. Like I wanted to, like I remember as a young guy, I remember thinking it's like she's milk and I'm chocolate. I'm just melting into her. Like we're melting together. And that feeling where I want to be so close to her and I want to feel her and hold her from every angle. That type of feeling is it's a good sign. I'm not saying it's everything. Okay, that's the other thing I'm not saying. I'm not saying, if you're attracted sexually and you guys match, then everything is going to be good. I'm just saying that that's an essential part of a romantic relationship. That's a good place to start. That's if you don't have that, you do not have a romantic relationship. There is no romantic relationship at all. Don't kid yourself. You don't have that. So, I mean, let's face it, if you're talking about basketball, you need a certain height usually, you need some certain skills, right? No romance. It's not there.
It's like,
don't lie to yourself.
It's like a necessary condition for romance, but it's not sufficient.
Right. And women will say, well, you just care that it's like, these are very immature people, because it's like, listen, if you don't understand that two people are going to be physical and that's an important part of a connection, then there's almost no talking to somebody like that, because they don't understand the basics of making babies and things like that, Yeah.
So I just want to go back to kind of fix what I was saying earlier, because the point I was making is important in my mind. I just didn't express it well, and this is coming from my own personal recent experience during lockdown, or just during points in my life where in my mind I was like, I gotta pick up girls, I gotta, there's one, I should feel this way, and I'm trying to make myself feel a certain way, but there's something else in my life that's preventing me from actually feeling that way about anyone, right? But now, like, if I feel a certain way and then I address that issue in my life, and then my dick kind of comes back online, right? Like, I wasn't able to feel that way about any chicks at points, but I'm trying to force myself mentally to be like, there's a hot one, it matches all the boxes, and it should, right? But there's something in me I need to address before, like, that part of me is, like, back online. Like, it's offline, because I'm not taking care of something else in my life. So even if I try to pick up the girl, like, something's not going to be right because I haven't addressed something in my own life that is...
No, but the underlying thing is still there. What I'm saying is some girls are going to be more attractive, some you're not.
Right.
I just thought of the opposite for me too.
Milk and sugar?
No, I'll take care of it.
One of the big surprises for me was when I was younger, I remember I was only interested in, or I thought when I was younger, I thought I was only interested in a certain type of girl, and that was a girl like basically in college who wore a college sweatshirt, jeans, and like tennis shoes, and she had like a ponytail. There was a certain look, a very like kind of an all-American athletic simple look that I loved. Now I still love that look.
Right. It's a good look.
Yeah, I recently had a girl like had that same look, and I was into that. I was that's something I was into. But
like a tight sweatshirt.
Yeah, just like a sweatshirt. She's got the fraternity sorority sweatshirt. She's got the tight sweatshirt. Not necessarily super tight, just that certain look, that college look,
Okay.
It's attractive. It's very attractive to me,
Right.
And I thought that was what I liked, all I liked. And I was kind of in a way afraid of other girls. And then I had this other girl, and she really liked me. And so she kept coming over to my house, and she would really, like, I was kind of like, I was weird. It was almost like driving a car you're not used to driving, like all of a sudden you're just driving this completely different car. And I was with her for a while, and I remember thinking to myself, it's so weird because I was very attracted to her. And let me tell you what the girl looked like. She was a fire engine. And I never saw her not in high heels. She always had high heels every single time I saw her. And her feet were covered with those bunions. She was only 22, but she wore high heels at all times. Her pussy was always perfect, shaved, everything. She always was dressed to the kill. Always all the like silk this and all the earrings and she was always dressed to kill at all times, except when she was naked, and I remember thinking like, I thought that girls like this were very cold and wouldn't like me, so I was afraid of them. I was literally afraid of them. I would never talk to them when I was younger. And this girl, like, I realized I could see, like, she was very different because she had confidence. This girl had real confidence. Like, guys would buy her, like, a grand piano. She had a grand piano in her apartment. Like, some guy she hardly knew bought it for her, because he heard she liked piano. Like that kind of thing, right? And then she loved me, right? And she was all into me. And she was, like, could not fuck me enough, right? And then I remember thinking, like, I had to kind of, like, grow into this role that I could actually, these kind of girl could be attracted to me. It was hard for me to kind of accept. Mm-hmm. And then I remember at one point I thought, okay, like after she fucked me for about a year or something, a half a year, I remember thinking, yeah, okay, a fire engine girl, I like her. And the thing about fire engine girls, what I liked about her was she had those high heels, right? And she would walk with me, like, how much I walk, right? And she would walk like that in high heels.
Ooh. A trooper.
She was a trooper. And that girl, no matter how, if I had the worst cold or like I felt terrible, she would always, if she was going to blow me, she would blow me as long as it took to come. She never complained about anything. You could, any kind of sex, it could be freezing outside.
So that goes to show you, like, your point is that it takes a while to learn that some girls are beautiful they can be beautiful on the outside and on the inside too at the same time.
Maybe
which was kind of shocking,
right? Because everybody says that won't happen. I guess that's true too. But the surprising thing for me is that I could actually be cared for by a girl like this. That she could really like me. Like I didn't have to fake myself. I didn't have to be anybody else. I didn't have to have surgery. You know what I mean? Like I could actually be loved and wanted by this type of girl too. And then once I accepted that was when I finally realized that I like this type of girl too, right? But it took this girl going over the top loving me in order for me to accept that I could love her, because I was afraid of her. She scared me. That kind of girl. She was kind of frightening. And here's an interesting story about this girl. She was a city girl, like a total city girl, right?
This was in Japan?
This was in Japan. And then I had this other girl that was a total country girl. She was like stocky. She wore overalls and like a real country girl. Like she was like beefy. And she had a big swinging rack to the country girl. She was just like like corn-fed type. Like you're not very many girls like this in Japan. She was just like this. Oh yeah. And so then one day I took the country girl or the city girl home, right? And so when I get to the front door of my house, the country girl's there. So I got the city girl in high heels and the country girl's waiting on my thing with her overalls on, and they started yelling and fighting, and then
never shall the twain meet.
They got into a full-on fight, and I remember thinking, this is very interesting. Like I wonder who's going to win, because there's no way you can stop two girls from fighting, right? So I was like, I tried to stop them from starting, but once they started, it was just like, I don't know if you ever had two girls fight in front of you, but there's nothing you can do. Like, you're an idiot to try to do anything. Like, you just have to sit there and like try to calm everybody down, but you can't jump in the middle. Like, it's not smart as a guy.
Can't take sides.
No. I went and it was like a cage match, and they went at it. Like, they really went at it. The one girl, the city girl started scratching the other girl's face and ripped off her top, and then the other girl grabbed her by the hair and she was like slamming her into the fucking pole, right? And they were really going for it, right? And then the city girl won. Very clearly, the city girl won. And then the country girl was all stocky. She slinked home, right? And I was like, these city girls, these hot girls, you think that they're not going to be, like, this girl could take care of herself. Like, if some guy tried to rape this fucking girl, good fucking luck.
So
she was a tough one, that one.
And that could be pride, too, because sometimes those city girls look down on the country girls, and, she wasn't having any of it. You know what I mean? Right.
But you said
she was like a third of the size of the other one, too.
Yeah. You told me this story before, and you said that kind of ruined your relationship with her anyway, right?
Which one, the country girl?
With both of them.
The country girl was over. No, the city girl, she actually was around for quite a while after that, but definitely, no, actually it didn't ruin it at all. I was kind of impressed. Like, I was like, whoa, like, holy shit.
Oh, but
like, if it was Vegas, everybody put money on the country girl.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Right. But that was it for the country girl, the other two.
That was it. She was done. She was totally done. She never came back.
So that's interesting. So when the country girl got her ass kicked, she was literally vanquished from your life sexually. Yeah.
That's right.
Interesting.
She never tried again. she never tried again. And she always wore overalls in Tokyo. That was like the funniest thing, because you just never see girls wearing overalls. Maybe now they do or something. Maybe there's a fashion or something. But no, this was like she was from Hokkaido or something, real, up north, And I actually, the country girl was quite sweet, I felt bad. I mean, don't get me wrong. I didn't want them to fight. I didn't want this thing to happen. I felt bad, and the country girl shouldn't have been there stalking me. It wasn't right of her. And, she knew I was with other girls, and she should have just tried another method, but that's what she did, and there's not much I could do.
Yeah. But going back to the original premise of this conversation, if you're in the city and there's a city girl and a country girl, and the city girl's the red hot fire engine and the country girl's the kind of fish out of water, and you're trying to pick a girl, the easier one very well may be the country girl. Again, not to say the fire engine girl won't go for you, but I would think your odds are with the country girl if you're just kind of, don't not see that as an option, because...
Or the blind girl.
Right.
I learned long ago with it, when let's say you see a girl who's got a broken arm or an eye patch, that's a good time to hit on a girl. And the reason why is because, let's say the girl's hot, right? She's pretty hot, and she's got an eye patch, and she's got a broken arm. So maybe she had a skiing accident or whatever. She
thinks she looks like shit.
Right. She feels terrible. Right. She's like in a really low self-esteem.
You see right past that.
Yeah, and then I don't mention the arm or the eye. I just totally act like the arm is perfect and the eye is perfect, and I'm just like, hey. And then she's like, kind of like me, like, hey.
You don't say anything about key moments you might look.
No.
Okay.
I ignore it totally. If the
fine.
girl's like really tall, I act like she's short.
Okay.
If she's got a broken arm, I act like she's fine.
Yeah.
It's always I never ask her if she's, let's say that she looks like she's from another country. I'll never say where are you from or what's your background. I will never, because I know, because I lived overseas so long, that's all people do is they're like, American. Are you American? Do you like George Bush or something? They always go straight at me talking about things that I don't care about. And then so I learned myself. The worst question you can ask anybody, guy or girl, is what country are you from? The obvious question.
Don't ask the obvious question.
If somebody's tall, don't go, ooh, so tall.
How's the weather up there?
Yeah, how's the weather up there?
What's your major?
Yeah. What's your major? Yeah. Yeah, just like
what sign are you?
Try this. Just go up to a girl who's really hot, she's got a broken arm, and then just say, hey, what's going on? And then she'll be like, kind of like, and at the very least, you'll have a nice conversation, because I think most people, they kind of, like a girl in crutches, they might, I don't know, they just treat them weird. Like, I've had crutches a lot, and so I know because I broke my leg a million times playing sports. And every time people like act weird when they got crutches on,
Right.
but I'm the same person. I'm not any different, right?
In my mind, especially for women, there's kind of like a pity thing. And I'll say, in high school, I remember there was this girl that was in a car accident that she wasn't like top of the heap, but she was closer to the top. And she was in a car accident and it kind of shook her, right? And she started hanging out with me and my friends around after. And I never dated her, but after the car accident, like before she was never around me, after she was around me a lot, right? And she was a good looking girl. I just never, it was kind of like this pity thing I had. Like, I felt so bad for her, right? Like, she broke a bunch of bones and recovered, but she was never quite as confident or whatever as after, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you see a girl in crutches. If you see a guy in crutches, you're like, oh, that sucks. I think there's something, if you see a girl in crutches, to me, I feel like she's too vulnerable, and I feel like some kind of pity or something like that.
Yeah, be careful of that feeling, because that feeling is what everybody else has. And that's why they act weird. Like, I've never done this, but I knew a girl. She was quite attractive. She was really tall, but she was very attractive. She was a yoga teacher, and she was walking across the street in Shanghai, and she was Japanese actually, and the car hit her knee, and it caused her to have a limp for the rest of her life, and it was so sad because this girl was so elegant and attractive. Like, she was really the elegant type, the long neck, the back of the neck, the nape, the hands. She had these beautiful piano hands. She was a real elegant girl. And she moved real smooth. She used to do ballet. So she was like that type. She moved just like water across, but then when she had when she got hit in the knee, she had a limp. And it was almost like people would avoid her. And I remember I felt so sad when I saw her limping across the street because I noticed the way everybody else treated her. And it was like the exact opposite of who she was, right? And I didn't sleep with her because I wasn't like, I think I had something going on at the time. But I did like her. I thought she was a very nice person, actually. But it was so sad. And I thought, if you date that girl, of course she's going to have a limp the rest of her life. That's the way it's going to be. But you're getting a lot with that girl. Like, she's a good girl, right? That girl's a good girl, and well educated too, And she's got a little limp, and once you get over that, it's no big deal. But I find myself when I see somebody with a weird limp, you've almost like you feel something inside you, and there's that. I mean, even children will walk away. Children and dogs, when they see somebody with a limp, they will avoid them because there's something deep in us. So if you see somebody with a limp, men or women, don't be afraid. Like, remember that just walk with a limp yourself for right now. Go across the street. Right now I'm walking with a limp. I don't feel any different than usual, right? I'm just walking with limp right now. Now, if somebody treated me like some kind of an elephant man, I would be very sad, if you want to have good people skills, you want to learn to not go for your instinct. Right. Don't ignore that first, whatever that is. Like, if someone's got a limp, just come up to them and treat them totally normal. Just go, hey, how's it going? And they'll be like, oh, I'm good,
Right. So if they want to say it to you, right? Because at some point, right, if someone has a limp or they have an arm in a sling, at some point, if they want to tell you, they're going to say, oh, here's what happened to my arm. Because it's kind of the elephant in the room. Whatever. If it's the elephant in the room, they're aware it's the elephant in the room. So don't address it. They'll address it when they want to. Especially if it's like, okay, here's the girl with the limp. You're going to go out with her. She's going to bring it up at some point. She'll tell you. You won't have to coax it at her or ask her even, because at some point she'll want to tell you if you're connecting with her.
She will tell you, but I want to go even deeper with that because I've been practicing this way of living for so long that even if they start to tell me, I used to wait until they told me. Like, essentially, I knew they were going to tell me, and then I was going to start asking questions and not look too. At this point, I almost know because I was also overseas 30 years and always treated by the way I look. I know that I will do it. Like, okay, so let's say I have a limp, and then you treat me like I don't have a limp, but I know I have a limp. I still think of myself, let's just say in this example, as defective. And I'm going to start telling you out of my own insecurities. So when someone starts to tell me something about like the way they look, where they're from, of course it depends on the situation. If it's something like short term, like an arm, then it's not a big deal. But if I'm talking about something very kind of deep and embarrassing and long, I'll almost like put my arm around them or touch them and like, you don't even need to tell me. Like I even stop them from telling me because it's like I'm just there to be with them. Like I'm not secretly trying to find out this thing. So the next level for you is don't even kind of softly, don't even let them tell you in a way, because you're just like really letting them know in a very kind way that you really, it's there's no need for that. There's no need to even go there. You like them the way they are. You're happy. Everything's fine. They don't need to tell the story. If they want to tell you the story, I'm totally open, because sometimes they'll say, no, I want to tell you the story because I think you need to know. I know you don't care, but I really want you to know. And then I'll listen. That's fine. But if it's coming out of some kind of insecurity of theirs where they're kind of like knee-jerk, I'm just like, no, I don't. That's why I don't do it in the first place. I don't want to do it. I don't want them to have to do it. Like, they're okay as the way they are.
Yeah.
And there's no explanation needed.
So if guys hear what you're saying and take what we've been saying in this conversation and actually apply it, and I'm a real world pickup guy. If you apply this stuff in like real world,
well, not just pickup, but sales.
I know
friendship, moving to a new town.
I'm saying
but I mean that's important to say because the way that you become good at people is by being good with people,
right.
And then half the world is women, so that happens naturally. So the way that you get good at pickup, the way that you get, let's say you want whatever, you want a girlfriend or whatever, the way that you get that is not by focusing on it. The way that you get that is by becoming good at people and becoming that way all the time. And then that naturally will rub off on the female sex, right? So the thing is, the way you get good at pickup is by being this way all the time and by changing the way you interact with people. That's why I say that. It's so important to know. You got to be able to talk to guys. You got to like think this way when you see a guy with a limp. You got to think this way when you see a really tall guy. And by doing that, you will become very natural because you will start to realize the wisdom in it. And then it just will happen naturally. You can't be like one way with guys and one way with girls. One way with dogs, one way with cats. It's like, no, man, you're either good with animals, you care about animals, right? Or you don't, Now, of course, we do eat certain animals, and that would be the one big exception. But in general, you get what I'm saying. Every example is not perfect, but you get what I'm saying. Like, be good with men, and you will be good with women. Be good with people. Don't be afraid of somebody with a limp. Approach people as human beings. Ignore the most obvious thing, and be the person who is from this moment you meet them is not the brainwashed idiot seeing you in a certain box where you have to break through all this bullshit. You're just like, I'm a person, you're a person. Hey, what's going on? And they're like, oh my God. And this works with old people too, especially. If you see somebody old and you're like, hey, Mr. Old Man, you're so old. I'm so young. How does that guy feel? I mean, that's retarded. The old guy sees himself as a 20-year-old. The old woman also looks in the mirror, doesn't recognize who they look like now. That's true. They always feel like they're 20 or whatever. It's like a certain age everybody has. They always feel that age, 25. So when you recognize that and you see an old guy, you can just talk to the guy like a normal guy. And he'll be like, oh,
it's
this guy's treating me like a human.
You know what I find is funny, interacting with older guys. If you give them space to make kind of like an off joke,
that noise, yeah,
they'll,
yeah, right.
If you give an old guy the space or the chance to make like an off joke, they'll take it and run with it. Like they love. I have plenty of times with old guys. I'll be joking around, I'll kind of make like a little sexual innuendo, and they kind of like, oh, I'm safe to say that here.
I don't think that's a good example because a lot of guys might go along with your dirty joke, right?
It's not even me making a dirty joke. It's me kind of making it like you could say whatever you want around me. I'm not treating you like an old guy. I'm kind of like here.
No, I know, but I'm just saying like. A lot of people, okay, this is another topic, but a lot of guys, okay, look, if I'm around some guys who are all talking dirty jokes, I will also do it. But I'll tell you something, there's a lot of me who doesn't even like to do that.
Right.
I will join in the camaraderie of a bunch of guys doing it. And I can like even join a group of girls who are talking about something more of girl talk. Like I can be in the conversation and it's fine. But I think there's a lot of me who sees myself as a man and not, what do you call it? I can't think of the word. Like, don't assume so much that every guy likes dirty jokes. You know, like, don't assume that this is the way to be a guy. Like, don't assume that this is what guys always do. Broaden your horizons beyond the most, like when you start talking to somebody, because what happens is when you do that, other guys will respond and then they'll see you and they'll always be that way because you kind of set the tone as that's the way I am. Unless you always want to be like that, I would say one more risk is to actually just be normal around an old guy. Not like, oh, I talk dirty jokes with young guys, so I talk with you. A lot of old guys, they have matured past a lot of different levels of personality or persona in their life. And they don't need to do that anymore. And so, you know, older guys can really bring a lot to a younger guy's life. At the same time as you can kind of shame them into kind of like acting like a young guy.
I see.
But they're not a young guy. And even as a young guy, a lot of the things I used to do as a young guy was just out of nervousness, trying to fit in, trying to be normal.
Right.
You know, so I'd say when you're talking to an old guy, just or a little kid, like I'll tell you, I really practice this. This is why I'm saying it's important. Like my friend in Hong Kong, right? My friend, he has 2 kids, and I've been around them since they were born, right? Actually, just after they were born. No. One was not even born, actually, come to think of it. She was born after. We were friends and hanging out all the time. That's right. The first trip to Chiba. Yeah, the one wasn't born yet. Anyway, I've seen them grow up, and I've been kind of the uncle, you know, one of the uncles. And wait, I totally thought I lost my train of thought now.
It was about treating kids like.
Oh yeah, so the kids love me, right? And I remember one day the father, my friend, he came to me and he said, you know, I figured out why my kids like you so much. And I was like, why is that? He says, you just talk to them normally, like adults with respect. Like I'll just, even when they're 1 year old or 2 years old or 3 years old, 4 years old. And I was like, I couldn't really understand what he was saying until I watched myself talk to kids as opposed to the way other people talk to kids. I personally don't talk to kids like they're idiots. I don't talk to old men like they're old. I talk to people like they're people. And kids really love it. Kids really, really love when you just... Of course, they can't express themselves as well, you know, at 3 years old as they can when they're 18. But they can express themselves pretty well. And kids are really smart. They know the difference when you're treating them as a normal human being. They watch you treat adults and they watch you treat them. And you're always like, hey, you know, like this. And then the kids are like, okay, he's treating me like a fucking idiot.
Right, he's treating me different.
And I think that if you want to get good at human relations, throw all that bullshit away. I'm not saying that I don't have a great time with kids and make up imaginary stories and climb trees and do dumb things with them. Totally, I do that. But my go-to is to talk to them normally. And I don't know if anybody else does that or can do that, but that's the way I do it. And kids love it. I can say that for sure. And I think that's one of my secrets in people relations is I just treat them like totally normally and don't try to guide the conversation into who I think they are. You know, and so I think that's, if you do that, if you improve your Like basically, if you keep improving your people skills, you will improve your love life too. Because that's part of your love life is your people skills. So if you want more friends, if you want more lovers, if you want more of a social network, the way you get that is by going down deep into these things that we're talking about here, and not by trying to get good at kids or trying to talk to old people or none of that. You're going into the human, treating humans, and through that will come a lot of benefit in your life. A lot of benefit. Because there's a lot of people out there who are very lonely because nobody really treats them. Nobody really connects with them.
Effort to connect to them.
Well, I don't think people even know how or realize.
I'll say this. So like the other day, I went back to the gym, right, because they reopened, and there's so long, like, it happens in so many environments where you see the same person for so long. There's kind of a point where I've seen this person for 4 weeks and neither of us introduced each other, so I guess we're just never going to introduce each other to it, you know? Like, I've been working with this guy for a couple of years. He works 2 cubicles down. I never shook his hand and said my name is Gabriel. He never told me his name, so that's it. We're just never going to talk. We're going to nod as we pass each other and just never introduce each other. So when I went back to the gym, I was like, this is so stupid. I said, I've been seeing these people for years, and some of them I never have a conversation with. Why? And it's like, just go shake their hands, even if it's, I've seen you a long time, and be the one to make the connection. If it's an obvious connection to make, be the one to make that connection, especially if you see the other person hasn't done it. Then be the one to do it, right? Like, what's it going to hurt to know the other person's name, right? It can only help.
Right. And I think that's why, what I'm trying to bring to this episode is my 30 years of experience overseas, not my wisdom for my age, because my age, if I would have stayed in America, I wouldn't have learned what I learned. But people looked at me as a flag. They looked at me as a color. And my whole life. And so basically my whole adult life. And by them treating me that way, I learned that I hate it, and that I'm not a flag, and I'm not a color. And I don't mean like some fucking Benetton ad or some SJW bullshit, because SJWs are actually the exact opposite, because they only see you as a color or as a flag, and then they're going to try to relate to you based because you're like, they're going to, if they think you're a Mexican jumping bean, they're going to start jumping around. Like, they are so out of touch with humanity that they don't even know where to start. But for myself, I think that's why Ronin Man is so popular outside America, is because I see life that way. When I see a Pakistani guy and he comes up to me and he could have a limp, he could be this strange looking guy, I see him completely differently than I would if I would have stayed here. I see him as just a human.
You're like United Colors of Benetton.
But I think in a way, I really think that what I learned is what they want to learn but don't know how. Right. Benetton. Like, it is true that we are all humans, and you really learn that. But the thing is, they're going about it the wrong way, because they're going about it the way is like, oh, I'm going to learn about strange people who look like you and eat these strange things, where it's like, think breathing, think these type of basic things when you want to get along with people. Think of their breath. Think of things like that kind of the basics, and you will start to connect and see them more as other people. And
right.
And
that's interesting.
That's where you want to start with those basic body functions.
So,
I was just going to say, it could be an interesting topic for another time, because it's like, I think what you're talking about is actually it's somewhat of an American attitude that doesn't always work in different countries, like, because it's sort of like you'd call that being egalitarian, like where you're trying to see the person in every human. But sometimes you go to other countries, like I've been warned, like, we're not all the same. We're not all equal. And I'd be like, oh God, what a horrible thing to say. Like.
Oh, I'm not saying we're all equal. I'm not saying we're all the same. I'm saying that you connect with them on a deep level. Like when I was sitting with the cows in Virginia at the Andes organic farm, I was sitting with the cow in the morning, and I took a video of him, and instead of taking the video of all the cows with the pretty Instagram picture, I took a picture of his stomach because it was going up and down and breathing real heavy, and I have never really been around cows that much. So when I was just videoing his stomach going up and down, and it was, to me, it was so fascinating to watch his stomach because I could see so much about the cow because I could hear his heavy breathing. And I realized probably cows have been bred kind of to be unhealthy because this was a very healthy cow. Yeah. This was a pure organic cow eating only organic food, grass. That's all, and molasses, and like he ate like healthy things. This cow. No bullshit. Partly because Andy was too cheap to give him bullshit. He just wanted him to just eat the fucking grass. I'll keep, Andy's a hard worker, so he's going to move the fence. So there's new grass all the time. Every morning, move the fucking fence. He was just like, Andy's like a fucking just machine hard worker, right? And because of that, and also he wanted to make this thing sustainable so he could live off of it. So he couldn't afford to buy all that stuff. So he's like me, like very similar to me. He's always going to make do. He's always going to eat the coffee out of his hand. He's always going to, and he's like very similar that way. And so, but anyway, when I was with the cow, I could feel the cow. I could feel his presence. I could sit there with them, and it was very enjoyable to do that. I think that's what I mean with the people. It's more like feeling the human or feeling the living creature, whether it's human or whatever. Just being part of that kind of situation.
And this goes to like treating. We've talked a little bit about this before, like treating famous people. I'm friends and train with quite a few like famous fighters, and I remember the first time I met one of the guys. At the time, was close to the peak of his fame, very famous fighter, and the first time I met him, of course, starstruck. So I take the picture of him with my fist up, right? And he's like, yeah, I'll take this picture. I'm like, how many effing people does this guy take the same stupid picture with, And I'm like, I feel bad that now, I'm like, I should have just took a regular picture the first time I met him. But now I'm friends with a lot of these guys, and I'm like, I've had, like, my brother ask me, why don't you have more pictures with them? Why don't you post pictures of you with them? I'm like, I don't want to treat them like that. I've known them for a while now, and if I have a picture of them, like, us being friends on the couch doing something or whatever, that's fine, but I'm not going to be treating them a certain way, right? I try the opposite because everyone that sees them in the street that recognizes them will treat them the same that way, right? So I want to treat them not that way. Like
right. This skill, whatever I'm trying to describe here, it is a lot of the reasons why I have a lot of famous people, friends, is because I just see them as humans. I really do. I just see them as normal people. If they go out of my life, it's fine. If I never connect with them again, if we, you know what I mean? If we see each other again, if we don't, I'm not trying to hold on to them. They're not gems to me. That's the bad side, is that for them, some people have low self-esteem that are famous, and they want you to treat them that way. And if you don't, they're going to leave, right? Because it's fine. Like, there's no need to connect with that person for me. They haven't reached, I guess, the level of self-awareness that I want to be around. So, they can move on and maybe they'll find it some other place, but I don't really want to be around that, even if they, on the surface have a lot to offer. Like, it's not really where I want to be, So I think being that person will attract more people like that to you. So it works not just with different nationalities. Like you say, it's actually a very good point. Different socioeconomic classes. It's really true too. And one of my problems is I travel a lot in third world countries, and there's very poor people there, and not many people treat them like humans. And so sometimes I'll be in a situation where I'll be in a third world and I'll be I'll be hanging out with some street people or whatever. And then sometimes they want to take advantage of me because they see me as the rich guy who's going to pull them out of poverty or something. And so it can be like that too, because a lot of people just don't treat people like humans. But I'm okay with that. I mean, that's part of it. Is like you realize that you're part of the system too. You also fit somewhere. Into a third world guy who lives on the street, you are like this rock star in a way.
Ray of hope.
And having you as a friend, no, he is a rock star, and that can be fine too, because I've had these guys invite me to their house, whatever their house is, like a cardboard box or whatever, or even a street corner, and then make me dinner or whatever. And then I am kind of like a famous that night with the group of people or whatever it is, especially if I speak the language, But I don't run from that either. I'm okay with a night like that. That's fine.
Yeah, I got that.
But there are heartbreaks too, because you realize that poor people are not like kind. They're just poor. And rich people are not like mean. They're just rich. And so these poor people could end up being very evil too.
Right.
And
that's a nice thing about America. Yeah. I mean, that's a nice thing about this being in this country, is that it's possible, not always, but to be friends with people that are in different social classes.
No, I think this is everywhere. I'm talking about India now, and China.
Yeah, but you're right though. It's more challenging in like in a different country. At least that's been my experience. Is that because I would try to be egalitarian and just be like, oh, you're the poor guy or you're the rich guy. My feeling is like, at least in personal relationships, I can treat you the same, and that wouldn't work. Sometimes that wouldn't work, like because the poor guy would be like, ooh, like this is like I'm taking a step up here. Like they're not able to see you as a person. Like they just see you as like this is like an upper class guy talking, like being dumb. For some reason, this upper class guy is confused and treating me like I'm not lower class, but I am. But
right.
You know what I mean, and that can get you into trouble.
Well, I
I
can tell you a story that will illustrate this in a deeper way. There was a Chinese guy, and he was homeless, and I took him into my house in Shanghai, and so I took two homeless guys into my house. One guy had no shoes and clothes, and another guy was just like this wandering, strange guy. And I was living with my girlfriend because we had a business together, and so she hated it. Both these homeless guys, she hated having them in the house, and she like literally hated it. But I don't care, because I don't care if people leave me. Like I'm going to be myself no matter what. I'm willing to lose everything every day. All my friends, all my money. Like I literally don't care. I'll start over every day, because my main value is being myself, like, and being true to myself. That's my number one value. So if I lose everything tomorrow, or she leaves, or I lose, it's fine. I just consider that, okay, I figured that out, But these homeless guys came into my house. One of them lived there for about 4 months. The other guy was kind of on and off 6 months. The one guy, he ended up being a pest. Like he was just a pest in the house. He was once he was kind of around for a while. He didn't speak English, but it was just all in Chinese. But he was like a know-it-all. Always giving me some lecture about Chinese history. Always giving me a lecture about the way things are. And it was fine for a while, because I like to speak Chinese, and it was I liked the fact that he would just like machine gun Chinese to me all day, and that was fine. I liked that part. And there's parts of him I liked, but he was very, in a way, he was kind of disciplined in a way, strange. But in the end, I couldn't keep him around forever. There was a point. And so what I did was I came up with this idea, and I presented it to him, and he liked it. I said, look, what do you think about if you walk across China for this cause, and then I can help you get donations, and then I'll help you to get in the press and stuff, and then you can just like wear all these buttons and go across China, and then this will kind of give you something to do, like kind of a career in a way. For this guy, it was a career, because I knew I could get real donations from foreigners for this guy, because what he was doing was a good thing, right? And it was something that he believed in. It was something his life was already based on. So he was like, yeah, he's like, that's a great idea. So I started asking for donations from people, and donations came pouring in. So we bought him like really nice shoes, like Red Wing shoes, and like so he could walk across China, like a nice waterproof backpack. And we bought him like really fancy, like hardcore, like outfitting clothes. And he had this like big placard, which was all written, everything that he was standing for. And he was going to walk across China. And then what happened was once he got all this stuff and some money in his pocket, he basically totally was dishonest. And instead of walking to the next city, he took a taxi or something, right? I never knew if he took a bus or a taxi, or somehow he got to the next city. And then he was like in a 5-star hotel and like in the onsen, and like really living it up, right? Eating like a fancy food. And
you want me to throw some chicken on the grill?
Sure. Chicken on the grill sounds great. And so then he basically got drunk and ruined everything. And like, I had to stop the donations coming in because I had done a great job of promoting this guy, and the donations were like pouring in now. But the donations were based on this guy being real.
Right.
And so I guess I was his manager at this point. And I just said, no. I said, and he was super pissed off about it. He said, these guys want to give money and like you're stopping it. It's like, well, yeah, because you're lying. Like the whole point is you're supposed to be walking and, you're supposed to be promoting this thing and you're not, right? And then I basically shut down the donations, and, it was like a huge falling out for the two of us. But I let him go to the end. I think he learned a lot from that, is one is that you can't, like, not everybody's a liar. Not everybody's going to support you in deceiving other people.
You though, right?
Oh, he hated me. He told me he was going to come and stab me and all that. Yeah. Yeah, but the thing is, I'm tough. Like, I don't care if somebody tries to stab me personally that much. To me, I see it as a challenge. Like, I kind of like when someone wants to kill me, in a way, in a sense, because I don't like threats. Because they're kind of, as a kid,
right.
I got a lot of threats. I feel like, it's not that I want someone to try to kill me, but I prefer someone actually doing something rather than someone talking about it.
Right. I agree.
It's like, just bring it on. Let's get it over with.
Right.
If you're going to do this to me, if you're going to do this, that's fine.
It's kind of
But don't just keep threatening me all the time.
Right.
I'm confident in my abilities. I know I'm not perfect, but I'm quite confident in my physical abilities. And I do not like to live under a cloud.
Yeah.
I don't want to live under a cloud. So if you want to do something bad, then just come and try it.
It's kind of like,
Let me just say, I know it sounds like a bravado thing, but from my background, if you knew my background, you would understand it's not a bravado thing. It's like, I just want it to be over.
Right. To me,
I can't live with this halfway bullshit.
You don't care about chicken, right?
No.
Okay.
No. The thing that comes to my mind is like in a relationship where someone threatens breaking up or threatens divorce. If you're threatening it, it's already done in my mind, right? It's like if you threaten to break up with me, to me that's a breakup. Like that's it. You're not gonna hang this over my head that anytime I do something, you might break up with me, right?
Right. That's the heart of what I'm saying. That's exactly it. It's like once somebody threatens to break up with me, that's the nuclear option. Our relationship is never the same again.
Right, that's it.
It's not that it can't go on at all for me, but it's never the same because now they've crossed that line.
Right.
They've crossed that line, and that line is there for a reason. So I can never look at them exactly the same again. I'm not like a Christian, or I'm not like a person who lets their logic override their emotion. Like, I understand they broke a human law and that the relationship is not the same. I don't know where it's going to go next, but I know that it's not the same, and I don't lie to myself. Right. You can't break a human law and then use words of apology and fix it.
Right.
I'm not saying you could never change, but if you think about the depth of what I'm saying, breathe this one in, feel this one, and you will realize it is true. And it's true for you, it's true for me, it's true for everybody. So that's why you have to be very careful about breaking those human laws, because words do not fix them.
Right.
And people can lie and say they do, but they don't, and they never will.
It's like, it's cliche for the guy to have the woman that threatens divorce. And I've never been in this situation, granted, so maybe it's easier for me to say. But in my mind, if I was married and the woman threatened divorce, to me, I'm like, well, then it's over, because you're not going to hold the sword over my head for the next 20 years, right?
Yeah, that is the reason why that's not true, and it's very important to say this because a lot of guys are older listening to this, is that when you get older, you will get into basically a spider's web of connection with somebody, and it's not that simple. As a young guy, yes. Girlfriends, yes. I feel like if a girl threatens to break up with me, I'm going to put her on ice for a few weeks, at very least, at least 2 weeks. And then if she wants to come back, she can come back. But she's never in the pole position again. She's always going to be in the second car in the race. Because there's no way she doesn't get to the pole position in my life by doing these kind of things. It doesn't happen. I'm not saying after 10 years it couldn't come back, but she's broken a promise to me. Because part of the relationship is that you're not threatening the other person. As soon as you start threatening somebody, the relationship is totally different. Whether it's a physical threat of leaving somebody or it's a physical threat of, like, if somebody threatens violence, that's the same thing. It's never the same again. It's never the same. And same with physically threatening to leave. No, not the same. I'm not saying it becomes this or that. I'll go with my feeling, but I can't see them the same. But the thing is that you as a young guy think you would be like that your whole life, but what'll happen is, let's say with a business partner, with a son, with a wife, if you were married, you will have so many connections. Okay, if the romantic relationship with that girl is all you had, so say that you never had kids, yes, you would feel that way. But if you have kids that you love, houses together, if you like her family, those other relationships, it's like gravity. Okay, we are subject to the sun's gravity, but the moon is subject to our gravity. And all the planets, all the 9 planets, are subject to not only the sun's gravity, but also to gravity from the other planets. If there was no Jupiter, we would all be probably a little bit closer to the sun. All the other planets would be closer to the sun because Jupiter's pulling people away. It's a big planet. So is Saturn. They're huge, heavy planets with massive gravity pulling us in that direction. And as soon as those were gone, the whole lineup of the planets would change based on gravity, based on mathematics. So when you say that you would leave her, you are not understanding that a long-term relationship has many centers of gravity. And you might not even see her as the main thing anymore. In fact, when you have children, the natural center of gravity becomes the children in many ways. Not in all ways, because that's very unhealthy, but in many ways, just because of the sheer need they have of someone to take care of them, right? They become more important, So if there was only one planet, you are right if there's only one planet. But as soon as you're in a universe of planets or a galaxy of planets, then you wouldn't do that necessarily because there's so many other things. I think I've made my point. So remember, those older guys that are not doing that is not because they don't have balls. It's because they have other things pulling on them, and they see, probably correctly, that it would upset too many things that would be heartbreaking and not healthy. So I'm not saying they should stay in it. At times you do need to break away. And in fact, we all pass away, and one accident one day can change everything. So we're always at the mercy of the universe and life and death also. So you have to be ready for these radical shifts. I'm not saying you can't protect yourself by staying with her. It doesn't protect the kids from these type of things. I mean, disease could change everything, take you out, right? Take her out, take everybody out, take the kids out. We are always at the mercy of this crazy unpredictable life. So, but we try our best to make things predictable for the innocent, for the weak. You know, we have this dog here, Abby. She's like 16. She's blind. Dave takes care of her like a little kid, carries her outside. In fact, doesn't even go on trips because she can't, too old to go on trips. You know, so he's taking care of her. So you would think Dave, he's totally free. He's got, you know, he can do what he wants, but he doesn't because of this dog. So as you get older, you get more appreciation for those other things and the value they have and the importance of them. So that's why young guys seem so brash to older guys, is just because they're not so nestled into a web of things. And as you get older, for good and bad, you become nestled into the web of things. And in fact, the old guys who don't have a web of things often die very young because there's nothing, in a sense, this web of connections, social connections, is partly what separates older guys living and dying. Because when
that Harvard study that 100 years or whatever.
Yeah, when you study the health, it's like they have nothing to live for, even though you're just living for a dog. Not that anybody lives for a dog, but these things somehow matter in a way. And then, you know, like whether you keep your yard, you know, whatever it is that your life is, that web of connections, that web of, you know, I personally think it's very healthy to always have the mindset of a young man too. And to remember that cleanness of being young, that just ability to change, that ability, because a lot of times as you get older, you don't realize that a lot of those connections are fake or not even real anymore. And as an older guy, you have to realize that you can always change. You can always break away. You can, like, you know, people move to other countries and they decide that now is the time. It's worth it. I'm going to fucking do something totally new. Break away from everything. Because those things no longer, I've done my job with them. And now I'm free, you know. And some guys, they get lost in that. And they think they mean more in this universe than they actually do. So I'm not saying that what you're saying is not right. It's just that be careful judging people for sure as a young guy. Because there could be some very real things that they will never tell you. Like Dave, most people wouldn't realize he doesn't travel because of the dog. But that's because of a promise to his mom. So it's not just the dog. Actually, his promise is to his mom. So that's an unseen planet. She's passed away. So you wouldn't even, if you looked at Dave's universe, you wouldn't see that planet. But that planet's there. So be aware of those things in your life and be aware that other people have those things. But also be aware that sometimes you can overestimate these things and not realize the freedom that you do have. And realize your kind of responsibility to yourself to always be willing to be that surgeon who cuts away. You know, if that's what's necessary. And sometimes it can even be good for other people because they have to learn to take care of themselves, right? Yeah. You know, so it all depends on many, many things, but
yeah, just as I know we've gone pretty far off the beginning topic, but the other day
no, this exact same fucking topic. This exact same fucking topic. This taking care of the dog and Dave's mom, these are exactly the same as pickup. Right. It's this sense of wisdom in human relations will lead you to success in every area. This balance, this wisdom, this perspective, this ability to put things into perspective and to make tough decisions and to make tough sacrifices and to see things as they are actually makes you very good with women. An ability to see value in other people and make right choices.
So I do plumbing work. And I went to someone's house the other day, maybe Tuesday or Wednesday, and I opened the oven and it looked like looking inside of a dryer lint trap. I was like, what the hell? And the guy was like, yeah, my mom doesn't let me touch anything since my grandma died. I said, when did your grandma die? He goes, 98. And he's like, we're not allowed to use this oven because it was my grandmother's oven, who died 22 years ago. He's like, we haven't had a Thanksgiving dinner because she doesn't let us use my grandmother's dishes for 22 years, That's kind of like the opposite of like, you get so attached to it, right? There's no...
Well, that's kind of what we talked about in the last episode, is frozen in time, And that you when I talk about the angry guy, and interestingly enough, there was... The comments themselves speak for themselves. If you read the comments and listen to the episode again, you'll see the comments differently. I think that's one of my best. I think that was like, it was Dave and I just sitting here, and it was just like, I just think that was the last episode. If you haven't seen it, the angry man, that one came out of the ether. It wasn't me. It came out of the ether. Some kind of wisdom sometimes passes through you, and just you give it on to other people, and you're like, where did that come from? Like, that was one of those ones. But that was what I was talking about, that frozen in time. You need to be able to constantly renew yourself and re-see life again. Just me breaking, in the last one, I broke some taboos in what I said. And what I said is absolutely true. Things are getting better for guys. But that is real difficult to hear when you're in pain. It's real difficult. And I said that in the episode too, is I totally respect, I even went so far as to talk about the POWs. They have a different perspective, about Japan as a country and Japanese people. And then Germans too, in like these countries that fought each other. If you look at Croatia and Serbia, these are the more, or Palestine and Israel, we're talking about the very deepest pain and stuff, and that needs to be respected. And grieving, I talked about grieving of loss of a child for myself, but at the same time, and the grieving of the loss of a mother, there's a line, and you as a human need to move on. You need to find that line, because it's very important to grieve. It's very important to respect. But if that mother could come back and see that oven, I can almost guarantee, if she loved her children, she's going to say, what are you doing? I'm dead now. I watched people die in my life, and I moved on, and that's how I made you. Is by moving on. You need to move on. I understand you cared about me, but you need to move on. This is not caring. This is mental illness. This is frozen in time. This is death. This is lack of life. And you need, and as a human, you always need to be able to pick up and move on. If there's a civil war, if there's a nuclear war, if there's a meltdown, if there's a breakdown, whatever. If somebody's elected or not elected, and if this happens and that happens and your family dies or they don't, it's like you always need to deal with it at the appropriate level and to experience all those incredible pains of whatever it is that you need to go through, because sometimes it can be like an invisible planet. We talked about the mother as the invisible planet. You have to deal with all that, but at the same time, you need, as a living thing, your fingernails are always growing, your hair is always growing. You need to keep growing. You need to somehow keep growing through all the things. Always keep growing. Always keep overcoming. And if you can do that, you've discovered the secret of life. Because you're like a human. You're being knocked around. You're being hit by torpedoes. You're getting friendly fire, but you're just constantly somehow dealing with it, somehow learning to deal with your difficult emotions, conflicting emotions, see things in perspective, not perfectly, of course, but you're able to heal, find other people who went through that, heal, and then to move to the next, to move on, and to continue your journey of life until you die. That's our job. That's our job. And that, I can say this back to girls. Women and humans and dogs and people and children are all attracted to a man who's able to navigate this world. The man who can lead the ship, who can master the ship through the storm. That is always my goal, is the captain of my ship, is always to be able to go through these difficult storms, take care of people on the boat, take care of other people, you're taking care of the environment. It's a balance of things, right? It's a balance of enjoying those times when it's perfect weather, when there's like perfect stars and you're having sex with some beautiful girl on the in the sunlight or under the moonlight on the boat. But then those incredibly difficult times when the ship's falling apart, when you don't know if you're going to live or die, and you're somehow trying to keep your emotions in check while you're feeling your emotions and going through your emotions and allowing your emotions to tell you danger, to warn you of things, because your emotions are that instant thing. Instant. They're much faster than your thoughts. They're your more primitive mind, right? You got your brain stem, you have your emotional brain, and you have your logical brain. Your brain stem is the crocodile, most basic. And then you have your emotional, which is that kind of like, boom, that's the fastest electrical impulse in your brain, right? Keeping in touch with that and then navigating. So I'm going to end on that. Be that person. And you don't need to worry about friends, and you don't need to worry about girls or romance or whatever it is that you like, if you like guys or whatever. You don't need to worry about that aspect of your life, because it will happen naturally. Because you will be a balanced, robust guy in touch with the world. And believe me, that kind of person is very attractive. Very, very attractive to other people. You don't need to learn pickup. You don't need to be this guy with a fancy hat on, or with money. You don't even need any money. This is very attractive to people. People want to be around this. And you'll want to be around yourself, if nothing else. And that's the real gem. All right. Thanks for listening, guys.